This life's all that it seems. All the chicks scream, all the dudes yell. This is just what I do, and I do it well. With the flow fresher than the new shoe smell. Going through hell, but homie, keep going. You know the saying, you gon' reap what you sow in. So I don't chase girls, I just chase dreams. Play the same game, but we ain't in the same league. Running a campaign, Brody 2016. Like a phone to die, put me in charge. I'm a general, from the front, I'ma lead the charge. Like a federal, fell on my lap never. Going hard as ever.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank powered by Celsius Beverage. If this is your first time tuning in, catch all these amazing episodes up on our website, shrimptankpodcast.com. And of course, click over to our city, Boca Raton. Catch all these amazing episodes. Every week we come live to you at Shrimp Tank Boca on YouTube, the FAU Adams Center website, their social media accounts, and all of our other socials as well, even on Instagram these days. And every week we come to you with the best and brightest entrepreneurs from South Florida. We run this show in collaboration with the Florida Atlantic University's FAU Adams Center for Entrepreneurship. And I'm joined by my co-host, Dr. Roland Kidwell.
Hello.
Hi, Roland. What's going on? How's your day going?
Well, my day's going great. I've just been recording some lecturettes for my online class starting in the fall. So I've been sitting in front of a computer and reading my scripts and doing all that good stuff.
What does that mean? Be a little bit more detailed.
Well, we have an online class. It's not synchronous. So we're basically presenting lecturettes and the students follow along with them. We're going through our new venture launch workbook, going through the 10 phases of it to train them to investigate a business model and go through a process, go through a scientific method to look at their business model and to come up with perhaps a better one than they started out with. So that's the class. It's in the fall, the introductory entrepreneurship class. So that's what I've been up to. I've been traveling too. I was over at a family business conference in Lisbon 2 weeks ago, I guess, and then also went to Ireland for 2 days to do external examination of a dissertation about family business, development of psychological contracts in family businesses. So that was kind of interesting. I'd not done that before. But
you are ranking up the travel reward points, aren't you?
I'm hoping to, yeah. I'm getting a few over the last few weeks. My daughter is too. She just left for South Korea over the weekend to go over and teach English to Korean elementary school students for about a year. So it's been a lot of travel. But let me also plug, we have our Veterans Entrepreneurship Program. See the QR code there? Zoom in on that QR code, take a picture of it, and get a statement of interest there. It's for veterans. It's a entrepreneur boot camp. It's starting in the fall. And then we have our regular FAU boot camp again, starting in the fall. There's another little QR code there. Zoom on in and get a picture of that one. And other than that, summer school continuing on, and trying to work a little research in here and there, a little travel. But everything's great.
Well, before we get into our guests today, can you talk to what you do with other leaders in our community, like you've done with Dan, where you allow small businesses in our local community to partner with FAU and pretty much come into your classroom and partner with the classroom and pretty much, get more involvement with their actual business. Can you talk to that for a minute?
A couple of different things. Small businesses, entrepreneurs, family businesses come in and talk about their businesses, talk about different aspects of what they're doing. We work pretty closely with Tech Runway, the incubator accelerator here at FAU, and we have a class. It's the third entrepreneurship class. We got the introductory class that I just talked about. We have an entrepreneurial finance class, and then our third class is called Community Engagement Project, Entrepreneurial Assistance Project. And we have teams of students who work with local companies who have an issue when they want something done. They have a project. They can't really get to it, but it's important to them. And we work through the semester over about 15 weeks where students work with these companies and hopefully develop something that can be used by them to enhance their operation, whether it's a marketing plan or whether it's a social media strategy or what have you. And we've been working with these companies from Chile for the last 2.5 years who want to come to Miami, who want to come to the U.S. in general, and just trying to helping them with the project of being how do they get in here. So it's a great opportunity for the students to actually become quasi real life consultants to these companies. They get service learning credit for that, and then they hopefully give something back to these companies who are willing to take them under their wing and work with them over the semester. And so, yes, that's been a great class.
It's free, right?
Well,
so you get an opportunity.
it's for the
classes.
businesses. It's
Yes.
it's their time that's being used there, and of course, the students are
It's a
paying.
win-win, right?
I think so.
Businesses are able to partner with 3 to 5 students each and really put them on a project for their business. And often, if you're going after the younger generation and trying to figure out if it's a product that fits that market, it's a great opportunity to partner with students, really see it from their point of view. And I did that with 2 of my brands. I did it
Right.
with Shrimp Tank once, and they came up with some really clever ideas, and also with Owl.
Mhm.
So I got to give a lot of kudos to you and other professors that are running those programs, because it provides a ton of value. And our guest today, Dan, also was part of that program a few years ago. So let's get right into our guest today. Every week, we bring to you the best and brightest entrepreneurs from South Florida, really finding the do's and don'ts of running a business. And they get into such extreme detail on our show, which makes us really, really unique. So today, we have Dan Grech in the Shrimp Tank studio. He's the founder and CEO of BizHack Academy. So, Dan, welcome to the Shrimp Tank. How's everything going this morning?
Things are great. Thank you.
Cool. Well, let's jump right in. Tell us a little bit about BizHack Academy.
BizHack Academy, like so many businesses, was actually built on a foundation of trauma. I was, for 20 years, a journalist, and suddenly, unexpectedly, lost my job. And like so many journalists, had to reinvent mid-career because the journalism industry, it's always been kind of a young person's game.
Yeah.
But also right now, just as a business, it's really not doing well. So the industry is shrinking. I was at a pretty elevated position. I ran the local NPR station's news operation. Before that, I had been a foreign correspondent for NPR and a business correspondent for PBS. And so, I found myself in my late 30s without a job, without job prospects, and really without what I felt was like a marketable skill set. I had a master's degree in storytelling and, highest level of journalism. And honestly, there was nothing for me to do. And so
What year was this?
this was 2013.
Okay.
And so
Markets were just starting to shift back to normal down in South Florida, right?
yeah,
The housing crisis, in 08, 09, and then things were really brutal, up until around 2013, 2014.
yeah. And I'll tell you, when you had a resume like I did, I figured, people are going to line up to hire me. And that was a brutal awakening. One of the things I realized is, I figure, I know how to do this stuff in a journalistic context. I'll just do business storytelling. And so I started to talk to people, hey, hire me. I'm a business storyteller. And don't worry, I'm just $150,000 a year. And they very quickly said, why in the world would I hire you when you have no clue about marketing? You just know journalism. And so I quickly recognized, oh shoot, I need to learn this thing called marketing, but I want to do it online, online communication. So they're like, Dan, that's called digital marketing. And I wrote down digital marketing. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go YouTube that one, and I'll figure out digital marketing in a week or two, and then I'll be ready to be hired. And 10 years later, here I am still learning it. I always approach learning. I love to teach what I want to learn. So I was able to convince, let's say, Miami-Dade College to hire me as an instructor in digital marketing. And I'll never forget, I was sitting with the Idea Center's then executive director, and they had just hired me to build their first ever class in digital marketing for small businesses. He said, okay, Dan, what's the first thing we do? And I look at him and I say, hire a co-instructor. Because I had no idea how to teach marketing.
This is really interesting. They hired you for something that you weren't really an expert in at the time.
Right? I wasn't
It wasn't like they saw this business owner that, in a 2-year span grossed $5 million of revenue through marketing, cycles and just different verticals, right? You just kind of, knew that was the direction, and you sold them on you.
We used to call this fake it till you make it.
That's correct.
100%. And, I think, in basically I conned my way in there, but I never told a lie. However, so I was always scrupulously truthful, but not actually honest. But the other piece of it was what I actually am really good at is I'm a great communicator of complex topics. And so I think there was a rationale here. Like I wasn't a subject matter expert, but I'm an expert communicator. And because I was trying to learn it myself, I had a beginner's mentality. And it took a while, but it really paid off because over time, I think it took about 7 years. So much for the 2 weeks on YouTube, but I developed what I think is a simpler way to systematically market a small business. And I did it by figuring out how to explain this first to myself and then to these students. And I did that for about 2 years. And I was at the time, when I was hired, I also had an elevated title. I was the vice president of PR and digital marketing for $1 billion company. So there was also the title, but the truth of the matter is they hired me to be the vice president of PR and they didn't have a digital marketing department. So I asked, do you mind if I just put digital marketing in my title? And of course I didn't know anything about digital marketing and didn't do any digital marketing, but it did get me the job at Miami College. And then after 2 years, realized that I kind of hated my day job, but I loved teaching. And so I quit the teaching gig as an adjunct at Miami-Dade and I quit my day job and I started BizHack Academy. And it's now been 7 years. That was in 2017.
So go into detail now, the type of class you have at BizHack Academy and some of the courses and just get into, more of the details of the business.
Yeah. I think the easiest way to answer that is where we're headed, which is our goal is to train 1 million underserved entrepreneurs in AI tools for marketing so that they can grow 10 times faster. And let me just break that down. So underserved entrepreneurs. So these are small businesses, generally speaking, folks who are sub $10 million and particularly sub $1 million, but also BIPOC, women-owned, immigrant-owned. By virtue of being based in South Florida, 87%, plus we really work hard at this, 87% of the folks we train are either women or BIPOC. And BIPOC just meaning, Hispanic or Black. And then AI tools for marketing. Honestly, there is no marketing without AI and generative AI. It's the most powerful tool in at least a generation, perhaps ever, for marketing efficiency and for higher quality output. So like if you're a small business and you're not marketing with the help of AI, you're really missing out. And unfortunately, a lot of the underserved communities, the minorities, the small businesses haven't figured that out yet. And my mission in life, honestly, for the rest of my career, I'm going to just work to try to get as many of those AI have-nots into AI haves.
But the business didn't start with that, right? I mean, you started doing something else and you pivoted to that.
100%. Well, I pivoted at least 4 times.
Okay, so talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
How it's developed from starting the business to where you are today.
Yeah, so you know where I ended up, right? And I'm pretty sure that this is going to be it for us. Like this is going to be our focus. And it's interesting because there's a concept, a Japanese concept called ikigai. And ikigai is like your professional sweet spot. And I'll get back to your question and you'll see in a sec. It's the intersection of what you love, what you're the best in the world at, what you can make money doing, and what the world needs. And all these pivots that I've been making have really been because I hadn't yet found my sweet spot. I hadn't found my ikigai, and now I have. And it's interesting, a lot of the mentors and coaches that I've had along the way have thought I've been unfocused and distractible, and I can be that. But it's not true. What actually was happening is I just hadn't found my sweet spot yet. And now I found it. And I'm like, they can't believe it. Like I'm a different guy. Like I am so focused. Like we're going to get to the million. I promise you. It might take 10 years. It might take 20, but it's going to happen. It's as far as I'm concerned, it's done. And it's just now a matter of like letting fate happen. And I'm not going to retire. I'm not going to stop until I do. Now, you wanted to ask about my pivots. And I can just say really quickly, I was originally hired by Miami-Dade College to teach small businesses marketing.
Uh-huh.
And for the first 4 years of my business, that was the focus, teaching courses in marketing to small businesses. And then
through BizHack,
through the course at Miami-Dade College, and then through the company BizHack that I founded. My company was a course.
Mm-hmm.
And I got to say, one of the biggest lessons I learned is how long everything takes in business. So if you had told me when I started BizHack that 4 years later, my main product would still be the same course. I've now run 27 cohorts, trained more than 1,000 businesses in this one course. And for the first 4 years in business, it was 95% of my revenue. So the pivot happened first when COVID happened. I had to shut down because all my training was in person. So my immediate pivot was to online, but that happened pretty quickly. I was kind of preparing for that anyway. And I pivoted to online and then doubled in size because everybody during COVID had time and money. Then the second year after COVID, nobody had time or money. So I had to pivot into consulting services. So that was pivot number 2. And then pivot number 3, which happened more recently, was I've transitioned from having individual business owners pay me for the courses to getting the courses subsidized by either governments or universities or other business support organizations like chambers of commerce. Because in the end, if I really want to serve this, underserved, business owner, they don't have the time or money to pay for my courses and they're expensive. And so I need to get subsidies from grants and stuff to help pay for them.
Can you just walk us through the journey of the person who signs up? Right, I'm an entrepreneur. I see value in your courses. I see your marketing happening. I see, or likely it's word of mouth. Right, another entrepreneur says they've taken your course. So, like, what happens next? Like, kind of walk me through it.
Yeah, great question. So, in our training or in our teaching, we call that the customer journey. And so, the customer journey, there are 3 aspects. I'll do a little bit of explaining, like marketing professor style. There are 3 aspects to the customer journey. And by the way, the customer journey is pillar 6 in our lead building system. And if you want, we can talk about the other pillars, but customer journey is the journey from stranger to sale. And it always starts with what's known as a free irresistible offer. And the purpose of a free irresistible offer is to get people to give you their contact information willingly, specifically their phone number and their email address. And then the next step is what's called a foot in the door offer, which is to get them to open their wallet. And it doesn't have to be a lot of money. Studies have shown that even spending $1, even 99 cents, will make you so much more likely to spend more money over time. It's then, and then finally is the upsell or cross-sell offer, where you actually often is where the real meat is. So for BizHack, our main free irresistible offer are a series of free masterclasses that we do online that are actually sponsored by Miami-Dade County. And we've had more than 6,000 people, entrepreneurs, attend these, and we've done more than 100 of them.
And then at that point, they sign up for the bigger service.
Yeah. So then at that point, there are 2 options. There's the recorded courses, and then the live courses. Now, the recorded courses are hard to sell because there's just everybody and their mother during COVID and even before said, I want a business to make money while I sleep. I'm going to go and make a course. And one of the things about courses is it's very hard to really evaluate how good a course is until you actually pay for it and take it. And so it's like a little bit of a black box. So really, it's the best marketed courses are the ones that win. And unfortunately, when you're trying to sell courses in marketing, you're going up against Russell Brunson and Ryan Dice and like the best marketers in the world. Yeah. And honestly, we're not the best. We're not as good at them at selling courses that are recorded. So we really focus instead on the live instruction, which is done via Zoom, incorporates personalized coaching, and get like eye-popping amazing results in terms of time saved and revenue made. And that's like the core offering. That's the thing that I started teaching at Miami-Dade College. And then just to wrap up, like after they graduate from our course, the next and final stage in their customer journey is either consulting services or which are like monthly recurring and or we have a mastermind group, and we also offer an AI toolbox so they can basically get like a discount on a whole suite of curated AI tools.
And how long is the course?
The courses are 8 weeks.
How much approximately?
So we have 2 courses. One is AI for marketing and sales content. 8 weeks. They have basically the same number of curricular hours, about 26 hours of live instruction with personalized small group coaching. That's $2,000. And then we have a Meta AI ads course. So that one, the first one is really about saving time. The average person who takes the AI for marketing and sales content reports saving 2 hours a day on average. The other one's really more about revenue generation. So the fastest way to make money is through advertising and Meta AI ads or Facebook ads. That's where we started, and that's $3,500, and it includes 3 one-hour coaching sessions.
How do you market your courses?
Yeah, so Meta ads are a huge driver, and then we promote the heck out of the free master classes, and a lot of people come into us through that. We actually have a partnership, as I mentioned, the Miami-Dade library system. Every single library of their 50 locations have flyers, physical flyers in every single one of their folks, on every single one of their locations. I partnered with more than 24 local business support organizations, including Tech Runway, who promote to their audiences these free masterclasses. And I'll be honest, I have 20 years of journalism broadcast experience. Like, the masterclasses are awesome. And so people come and then they're hooked, and then they're like, how can I learn more?
And then you have other people supporting you teaching these classes, or is it just yourself?
Oh, I have 80 certified instructors, and more than half of them are women, and the vast majority are dual language, bilingual, Spanish, English. Many of them are Spanish native. And so we also do all of our training in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
And as such, we're the only Spanish language AI marketing trainer in the country who works dual language and specializes in working with business support organizations.
Have you thought about taking that out of the U.S. and going to Latin America, South America? Is that where you get your million?
Yeah, you asked me this morning where I was, like how my day was. The truth of the matter is, it was a rough start to the day because at 8:30 in the morning, I was getting my Spanish passport renewed. I'm a dual citizen of the U.S. and Spain.
Oh.
And so my plan B, which is rapidly becoming my plan A, is to move to Spain and run the business from there.
Wow, that's unique.
Well, I was wondering, in terms of revenue, we talk to nonprofits, and they're relying upon grants and gifts and these kinds of things. The issue always comes down to generating revenue activities. And because grants and gifts are not sustainable, frankly, for a lot of nonprofits. And you're a for-profit business. But how do you then, are you moving then toward more reliance on revenue from the courses, or do you think you can sustain this business through grants, donations, and that kind of thing?
Clearly, a professor of business models is asking this question. Actually, it's a little bit the opposite, but you're exactly right, which is I've relied on earned revenue for my entire history of my course.
Okay.
And then I had a little bit on the side of grants.
Okay.
And what I've identified as my growth, so let's just call it 70% earned revenue from individual business owners paying for courses, and 30% from sponsorships from governments and nonprofit and other business support organizations. And I'm looking to flip that to 30% direct pay from business owners, 70% from business support organizations, but not have the revenue from direct from businesses go down, but rather have the other half of it go up. And the reason why I think this is going to work is because there are billions of dollars being invested in workforce development to get our country AI ready.
Okay.
And these billions of dollars are coming not only from government, which is inadequate in terms of the amount of money, not only from banks and others, but from the tech companies themselves. Like, they are putting billions of dollars into getting small businesses to use their AI tools. For instance, Google just opened an entire suite of free courses in AI. Amazon has a goal to train 1 million people on its workforce to be AI ready. Microsoft has an entire free academy for AI tools, but nobody is teaching the small business, the micro entrepreneur, how to then use those. And that's the position we're going to be in. And we see funding from the big tech as one of the major sources.
So they will pay, big tech will fund these kinds of courses as opposed to sell them themselves.
Big tech will make courses that are free and online, and MOOCs. MOOCs are massive open online courses, and the completion rate of the average MOOC is 10%.
And everyone has it, but then okay, it's free, and then you don't do anything with
it.
Dude, I'll be honest, I came from an industry that the great truism in the internet is information yearns to be free. I do not put much value on a recorded course. What is valuable is personalized coaching, and that's expensive. And there's no way on earth Google is going to hire 80 bilingual certified coaches to teach people how to use this.
But
in their
they're going to
business.
subsidize what you're doing.
Yeah, their courseware will become my textbook.
Okay.
But no, they know that, like, Meta AI, I've been working on Facebook, teaching Facebook advertising for almost a decade now, and Facebook has this thing called Facebook Blueprint, which is this, and they have an incredibly robust help center. Most small businesses can't even get a human being on the phone from Facebook to help them if they're stuck. So they're gonna have to pay for help. And by the way, this has gotten significantly worse since Meta got first the metaverse and now AI crazy. Like, a lot of those cuts that you're hearing about from Meta are in business, are in advertising support. And like, if you know anyone who runs ads with any consistency on Facebook that are small budget, like sub $1 million a month, ask them, hey, when was the last time you spoke to a person at Meta who actually helped you? It's impossible. So they need
crazy, actually.
It's
right?
crazy.
I've spent so much money on Facebook ads in the past, and it's just wild.
Well, you tell me. Have you ever had?
It doesn't go up, and then you're like, it just says due to violations of our terms and service, and then you're like, okay, but what? Like, and then you try it again, and then you try it again, and just pure frustration. You're like, I just wish I could talk to someone for 30 seconds, tell me what is violating, and everyone goes through this, and it's not a user friendly platform. Like, it's amazing how many people utilize it and figure it out. Right.
And I can
tell the answers and like, what am I doing wrong? Or really, like most people, they hire someone like you, shows you how to do it the first time the right way. And then you kind of take the training wheels off.
100%.
Get going.
And it's degraded. I don't know if you've noticed the degradation. I see it firsthand. Like, I would say back in the day when Facebook cared about small businesses advertising on their platform, I'd say about a third of the folks had trouble. Now it's about 80%. And I don't like Facebook at all as a company. I don't like Meta. I don't like its values. I don't love, like, the only thing I like about Facebook ads is it's the cheapest, best way for the small businesses that I do care about to get new clients. So, I kind of hold my nose whenever I teach Meta because I don't like the company and I think they've done a lot of bad things in the world. But it's also like, in the end, it's a hammer. What I care about is helping these entrepreneurs build a sustainable business, and Meta is the best teaching tool that I have found prior to generative AI in terms of how to teach the fundamentals of marketing. Now, ChatGPT 4.0 blows it out of the water, but still, advertising is the best way to generate leads that are profitable. And so there's still a place for advertising. And the very, I hope Mark Zuckerberg, you hear this one. The second I can stop using your platform because I found a better platform, I will stop, because I do not like you and I do not like the company you run. However, and I do not take money from these companies, right? Because then I get to say this. But the truth is, he's built a better mousetrap. I mean, the man is brilliant, and Meta ads are still the best platform for reaching at a cost that a small business can afford new customers.
Let's step back for a minute. What, as you became an entrepreneur, what is the one thing you wish you knew when you started as an entrepreneur that you found out you should have known? If that makes any sense.
Yeah, well, no, it's a great question. Like, if you could give advice to your younger self, like, the first thing I would say is everything takes way longer than you think. I already talked about that.
Right.
But the second one, which is similar, is, and don't hurry, because it'll take you longer. Like, the number one mistake that I made early on in my business is rushing, and it slowed me down.
Huh. Like pivoting all over the place, or just trying to get the instant solution, or?
Yeah, like basically settling for the fastest solve rather than the best.
Okay.
I mean, a great example of this is SEO. I still don't get, to this day, 7 years in, a lot of traffic to my website, but it's not for lack of trying, but it's for lack of a coherent strategy. And so I call it random acts of marketing. I myself am guilty of so many random acts of marketing that were the result of rushing. Another great example of rushing is you've probably heard hire slow, fire fast.
Mm.
The amount of time wasted by a bad hire versus taking your time and hiring slower and dealing with the short-term pain of having an open position versus the long-term pain of hiring the wrong person. Like, that's what I mean by don't hurry.
Mm.
I mean, this is so critical that I have one thing written I have a whole dry erase board, and the only thing that's written on it is don't hurry. And I look at it and I think about it every day. I just before this call called my chief marketing officer, and I told her, as you're interviewing our new marketing associate, I want you to find every reason you can find to not hire her. And I want you to interrogate her in search of a reason not to hire her. Because if you hire the wrong person, the pain you're going to feel over the next 6 months is so profound that I'd rather take a little bit of extra pain at the front end than a whole lot of pain after that. So, I'm living this, but it's like 7 years in. It took me a long time to figure this one out.
Okay.
And I completely understand where you're coming from when it comes to different marketing strategies, because so often small entrepreneurs hire someone and expect results overnight. So they go after SEO. They're like, oh, it'd be great to get leads to my website, create a funnel, and I'll spend 10 grand. And then 3 months later, they quit SEO. It doesn't work for my brand. Then they go over to Facebook ads, spend a month, right? The ads don't work. They don't perform right. They quit that. They go to organic posting on TikTok, Facebook, everywhere else, of course. That doesn't work. And then they're like, oh, it's all BS. None of this stuff works, right? And they don't give things enough time, right? And they're hurrying throughout the process, saying, well, this ad's the same. It doesn't matter what he's saying, right? This title, it looks similar to his title, but those titles mean so much. And SEO, oh my God, that you need to give years sometimes. I have multiple websites, and I mean, I have someone that blogs consistently, and Google changed the algorithm all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And you just have to be able to have thick skin to just bear through those updates, because and you can't rely on SEO traffic typically for a business. Some do, but you could go from getting 100 leads 1 month to 25 the next, right? There could be major shifts in that algorithm, and that happened last year with all bloggers getting access to write 1 million blogs a day, right?
SEO is the most profitable channel in all of marketing, and it also takes a minimum of 18 months and probably 3 years of consistent investment, an investment in the $4,000 a month kind of level to get any results. So for most small businesses, SEO is a future initiative, but I want to give you a couple kind of concrete examples. So the best marketers in the world are the people who sell marketing training. And one of my favorite is ClickFunnels. You ever heard of? Love the guy. I think he's like brilliant. He like completely upended the marketing industry in good ways. And I have yet to meet a single person who's had any success using his techniques. And I get a lot of people who come to me and say, I hired Russell Brunson and ClickFunnels. I use his software. I followed his training. I read his books. There's like a whole movement. There's even conferences. And, these guys promise massive results. Most people are wholly incapable of actually executing against it on their own. And then they come to me and ask for help. And I said, look, don't hurry, right? There's no shortcuts in marketing. But another example that's maybe going to hit closer to home is I recently hired an EA, an executive assistant, for the first time. And it's the best hire I've ever made. She's freed up so much of my time to then market more. So in other words, instead of like hiring a great marketing person or a biz dev person or salesperson, I just hired an EA to handle other stuff so I can sell more. And it's working out great. But the number one thing that was like the bane of my existence was email. And I just couldn't keep up. And so back in the past, I hired a part-time EA and had her help with my email. And it was a spectacular disaster. And I wrote an 18-page manual of how to manage my email. And it was a complete failure. And I said, my email is unmanageable. I was wrong. What was the problem was my approach to it. And so I have a full-time EA. And then I said, I'm going to give a get out of jail free card to both of us for 3 months. And we're going to mess up continuously on this email stuff for 3 months. And then hopefully at the end of that, we'll evaluate if this is even working. And that shift in mentality to don't hurry to recognize that there's like a mind meld that needs to happen, and it happens over the course. And I'll give you an example. I got a really important email right before this interview, and she, God bless her, didn't alert me to it. So I called her and I said, just as a heads up, when I have a cancellation of a really important meeting that comes right after a podcast interview, just call me and let me know. That's worthy of a phone call, because I'm about to go in the podcast interview. I'm not checking my email, not checking Slack. And I need to know that, because then I don't have to rush out of here. I can like build some more networking, and then I'm a little under less pressure. I'm not feeling, oh my God, I got to get to this important sales call at 2 p.m. Yeah. So that kind of thing, right? Like that's what don't hurry means to me.
And I like how you put it, is like, you knew that there was going to be failure in there. Like, there's no way, given someone that big of a responsibility to really use their intuition, what to show you, like, things are going to have to, take time to build chemistry with that individual, looking at all your emails. And that's the same thing with business. So many solo entrepreneurs can never get to their first employee because they're like, well, I'm just better at doing it myself, right? You get into that cycle, be like, well, I'll just shoot the email because it'll only take me 5 minutes. But only taking you 5 minutes builds up to 4 hours a day. And then before you know it, it's like you can't get out of the cycle of being a solo entrepreneur. So completely understand where you're coming from. You have to sometimes just let that individual fail a little bit, let them kind of figure it out on their own. And then over time, then, they have the full responsibility. So love how you put that. We're going to take a quick commercial break to hear from one of our sponsors. And then we get back, we're going to jump into our What's Hot segment of the show.
Join the fastest growing community of professionals on the internet with OWL. Access new networks and otherwise unreachable professional contacts through the one-on-one call feature on the app. Scroll through the list of available professionals and join them for a quick call to build rich connections, expand invaluable relationships, and to broaden your professional landscape without needing lofty referrals. OWL. We bring vetted pros to your doorstep 24/7 on demand. Join our community by signing up at owl.com today.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to the Shrimp Tank. That was our sponsor, the OWL app. And what's cool about the Shrimp Tank is we take all of our past guests, and the week after we feature them on the OWL app, and our guests usually make themselves available for 30 minutes or more. So all you got to do is follow Dan and get that chance to chat with him one-on-one on the OWL app. Talk about collaborations, network with him, or just pick his brain about anything we talked about during today's episode. So Dan, on this segment of the show, it's called What's Hot, right? I want to ask you something and dive deep into why you believe it's hot. So you talked about your business having masterminds, right? So of course that helps your business, I'm assuming, build in a lot of recurring revenue because you take a course, but solo entrepreneurs typically like to be around other solo entrepreneurs and learn from them so they could scale to not be a solo entrepreneur, to really hire people, scale like you've done in your business. So what's hot about these masterminds that happen after people take these courses?
Yeah. Thanks for the question. It's lonely at the head of the table.
Yeah.
And it's particularly lonely when it's sort of a prison of your own making, which is what most businesses are. And so business owners, no matter what size you are, need peers who understand just the particular pain they're going through. I'll tell you, if you've never had a missed payroll, where the possibility of a missed payroll, where you have people who are relying on you to have the cash to be able to pay them at the end of a 2 week or month, and you've experienced just the scramble to have to pull together enough money to not have to let them go or not have to pay them late. If you understand viscerally and have experienced personally that, you are forever bonded with people who've had that experience. And if you've always worked for someone else and had been able to rely on them paying you on time, you just don't. And so number one is business owners need peers to just emotionally make this journey a little less lonely. Second is they need accountability, because most small businesses are owned by the CEO, by the founder. They don't essentially have a boss. The boss is usually the shareholders, but the shareholder is the owner. So the accountability that a mastermind provides, that weekly or monthly touch base. And then finally, particularly when it comes to generative AI, we'll train you up in our 8-week course in the basics, but keeping up and then personalizing. A lot of people come to me and say, well, how do I use AI in my business? And I say, honestly, it's the wrong question. It's a little bit like asking, how do I use the internet in my business? So you need some way to keep up with the massive and rapid change, and a mastermind when everybody's kind of trained up in the basics. So a more advanced mastermind is a good way to do it.
How often do people meet?
We meet monthly.
Monthly.
And we meet for 90 minutes, and we have a combination of tool demos and experience shares. So we're basically like, hey, you heard about Meta AI releasing a new chatbot. We went and kicked the tires on it. We wanted to show you this. Let's do a little breakout room and everybody can practice using it. Here's what we think it's good at. Here's what we've read about it. We also curate a newsletter. Like, here's the news that you need to know. We also kind of identify what are the good tools, because it's just the proliferation of AI tools.
What's the cost to stay in the program? Because a lot of people take this course one time, then they decide, hey, I want to stay close to your brand, right? They realize like this stuff's always changing. So it's great to be part of this. I go 1 month, I skip next month, but I'm assuming there's a monthly membership fee.
Yeah, it's $297 a month, but it's only open to our alumni.
Gotcha. That's pretty unique.
Yeah, so we try to keep it pretty low so that it's affordable. And then we limit it to alumni of our programs, because we want everyone to have a shared language and framework. And we have more than enough demand from our alumni. So one of the benefits of taking our courses then gives you access to the mastermind. And then the other thing that we do, which is, I don't know anyone else is doing this, is we get group licenses for all the best tools. And then we can give a discounted rate for that suite of tools to our mastermind participants, also only open to alumni of the program. So one of the biggest challenges, of course, is which AI tools to use, because you must combine using different AI tools. You know, our core training is on Canva, Magic Studio, which is great for video creation and image creation, and then ChatGPT 4.0, which is just still the best tool out there, even though it costs $20 a month. But our average participant in our course leaves using 4 tools a week. So there are other tools that they have to fold in that do things really well. Which tools to use? We're constantly showing them great tools. And for the ones that are really amazing, we actually get a group license and then are able to give it to them for a discount. And so they get this kind of all-you-can-eat buffet of a curated list of the best generative AI tools. And that comes with it as well.
So you said you were going to move to Spain to operate this business. What is hot about operating this business from Spain?
It's a wonderful question. I was joking, sort of. It's sort of my my plan. I would say that our expansion into Spanish language training is starting in the United States. There's a huge lack of Spanish language instruction in AI in the United States, and so we're working with Lendistry and the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and Bank of America and others. So, for instance, there are 4 million U.S. Hispanics that use the Spanish language Bank of America app. And so we're in conversation with the, VP of Hispanic lending to say, can we build some training in AI for those folks to help those businesses? And so we're looking to conquer the U.S. market and then expand into Latin America and Spain. I'm a dual citizen of Spain and the U.S., and my retirement definitely involves living in Spain. How quickly I can get there while I'm still working is honestly
okay. So Colombia might be a better choice as a midway point.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, 100%. In fact, yeah.
Or Argentina or Chile or something. Like that.
Totally. It's funny you mentioned Colombia, because we have 80 certified coaches and more than 30 are Colombian native. And, I've lived in Argentina. I've traveled. I used to be the Latin American correspondent for the show Marketplace on NPR. I've been to almost every country of the 34 countries in the Southern Hemisphere. But Colombians in particular are some of the most prepared and easiest to work with, most professional. Like, we adore working with Colombians, and it's just sort of been accidental, but there's just like clearly a level of education and business in Colombia that I think surpasses almost any other country that I've experienced in Latin America.
Okay, so what are some of the hottest AI tools that businesses are missing out on, right? I feel like everyone talks about AI, but really everyone uses one tool, GPT, usually the free version. And usually they use it to write emails, write legal contracts, right? And of course, good old social media posts, right? We know no one could write that good on social media all the time, right? Everyone just popping in, something and it spits out here, post this for LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. So give examples of some of the hottest, AI tools that people really aren't accessing right now, and how they are actually using it. Because often we say use it, but then no one does. Like, but what is it doing for the actual business?
Yeah. So ChatGPT is a chatbot, and it's really, really good at creating text and images. And we're getting close through a system called Sora that ChatGPT is developing to text to video, which is a complete game changer, because the vernacular of the social media is video, and most small businesses can't afford to make them. Sora, you could describe a video and it can create a pretty high quality video. So we're not there yet, but we're headed there. Gemini, which is Google's competitor, is free, and it's way better than ChatGPT 3.5, which is the legacy free OpenAI / Microsoft. So for me, if you're getting started and you don't know quite how to use it, I would start using Gemini first. Second is
Gemini's the Google one?
It's the Google one.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just gemini.google.com.
It had a little controversy recently when there some of
Yeah,
the stuff that's going on with them.
Yeah, so they were over woke. So the issue with, just to background folks, they were basically creating black Nazis was the thing. So what happens is, large language models and generative AI is a reflection of our biases because it's trained on material from the internet. And so since the internet is mostly written by rich white men, the biases are towards white men. And so a lot of times when you ask it to create an image, it creates an image of a white person. And so the woke police got trained the model, say, hey, whenever we ask for an image of a person, don't make them white, make them kind of more.
George Washington came out black.
Right, more Benetton ad. And so then you get like George Washington is black or Nazis are black, and it really caused problems. So Gemini had to shut down its image generation thing. And then another really powerful and exciting one is Meta. So Facebook, Meta.ai. This is a generative tool that's now built into Facebook, it built into WhatsApp. Like when you search on WhatsApp now, it's providing generative results, which is pretty cool. So those are all free. And by the way, a lot of people have discounted Facebook. It's been kind of a Google Microsoft battle. Microsoft is backing OpenAI. By the way, Microsoft is now actually creating a competitor to ChatGPT as well. So it's
Copilot.
Exactly.
Okay.
So there's Copilot, Gemini, and Meta AI. All are free, and all of them are 80 to 90% as good as ChatGPT 4.0. So if I were getting started, I would start in one of those three, and then by my money, ChatGPT 4.0 is the best for marketing. And so we recommend, despite the free options, that you still pay the $20 a month. Then there's Perplexity, which is great for research, really good for students. And if you're doing like market research, and then there's two that I wanted to mention that are a little less well known. One is Magistral, which is one of a number that are really great for like taking like a video recording of this podcast and cutting it up into reels. And I'd be curious if your social media team uses it. It's incredibly efficient.
Video.ai, and then another one's Opus.
Yeah,
they're all
Opus Pro, Video.ai. And could you spell video? Because I know it's got a funny spelling.
You'll have to ask our producer.
I think there's a Y in there with the video.
It is.
And then the other, so those, like, I love those tools. So tools that take like a long video and cut it up into reels, they're better and faster than a human being at doing that. And they're getting better and better every day. And then the other one that no one's ever heard of, but I love and adore, and I use this whenever I do live demos, is called Namelix, NAMELIX, like namelix.com. And they will generate within seconds potential names and logos for your new business.
That's unique, yeah.
Or for your, and then they will actually even check to see if the domain's available.
How do you keep a small business entrepreneur from being overwhelmed by all of these options?
Yeah. So
how do you just focusing on ChatGPT?
Yeah, we just focus on ChatGPT and Canva.
Okay.
And so I say, like, we go deep and we expose them to broad. But my approach to training is you go really deep in one platform and you teach them a systematic approach to how to use the tool well. And we go into the real, like, nitty gritty of it. And then we just count on their associative, like human beings are great at association. So if you learn, and I learned this from running with Facebook. So we used to teach my advertising course, we would do the first half on Facebook and the second half on Google. And what ended up happening is everyone came away completely overwhelmed. So we just focused down on Google, and we just counted on them to focused on Facebook, and then we counted on them to be able to figure out Google or LinkedIn.
So can we
or
dive
Twitter.
into how you're helping them market their business? So you said ChatGPT 4.0 is the best for marketing. Most businesses fail because they can't find enough customers because they have poor marketing, engines backing their brands up, right? They try too many things and they get no results. So how are you actually using ChatGPT on the marketing side? Can you just explain it a bit deeper?
Absolutely. So, and I would be lying if I said we figured this out to start. Like the first, we've run about 10 courses now, and the first handful, we did not take the approach I'm about to describe. And they were basically tool teaching courses. The tools were so new. We were so excited. So we're like, ChatGPT, let's play with it. First for text, and then for images, and then for video. And we started there. And then what we started to find is that people were like, wow, I'm creating great text and it's not converting. In other words, it's a more efficient random active marketing. And so we said, what we need to do is we need to bring back strategy. And so the strategic framework that took me 7 years to figure out is called the lead building system. The foundation is your business story, why you do what you do and why it matters. How, it's basically your story of me, the founder story, and then the core purpose, right? And that's the foundation of marketing and sales, because everybody does business with people they like and trust. So, if you're Luke Skywalker and you're looking to hire a, mentor, you're going to hire Obi-Wan Kenobi because he's a Jedi and you want to become a Jedi too. So that's the business story. And then there are 6 pillars that you build on top of that. And this is how you build a campaign. The campaign objective is pillar 1. Target audience is pillar 2. Pillar 3 is, what is the irresistible offer? What are you going to give to people in order to get them to give you their contact information? This is specifically about lead generation. And then what's your thumb stopping video? Thumb stopping because it's on mobile phone. What's your compelling message, and what's your customer journey? And so what we say is, in every one of these 6 pillars, ChatGPT and Canva and generative AI more broadly has a role. So we use ChatGPT, for instance, to help us generate what are the potential campaign objectives and how can I measure it? Or, you get a spreadsheet of results and then it can analyze it for you. You can ask it, you can say, here's my business, who's my ideal customer? You can say, I need to come up with a free irresistible offer. What offers could I give if this is the product? And it'll become your brainstorm partner. And then one other thing I'll say, so that's the systematic approach. And then when it comes to marketing strategy, there are only 2 things you need as a small business. It took me 10 years to figure this out, so hopefully this will be useful to some people. Number 1, you need to know, like, what are my annual goals and what needs to be true each quarter in order to hit those annual goals from a marketing perspective. And these can be revenue, customers, but it could also be capacity. Like, I need to hire and train a new marketing. And then the last piece is an editorial calendar. You just need to have mapped out, ideally for the next 3 months, what content we're creating on what channel to what audience. And if you can do those 2 things, it used to take about half a day to build a good 3-month calendar. And now it takes about 15 minutes using ChatGPT. So that's an example of the transformational time savings of ChatGPT. You tell them who your target audience is, you tell them what channels you're on, and you have them build you a calendar, and it's 80% of the way there, and it takes minutes.
What's crazy, you could actually schedule out all the posts for months out. Technically, I know it's not good to schedule everything out because you want to do collaboration posts. Certain tags work differently when you use some of these, calendar type softwares where you just push it out. But if you really wanted to, you could say 3 months, and just knock it out in half a day, or even 2 hours, and get all your posts ready, all your images from Canva, and really do some damage with the brand that's just on auto drive.
Absolutely. And the way I would think about it is, you should do that always, right? But then you recognize that that's just the baseline. It's like the heartbeat. And then you're going to have opportunities. You're going to have news articles you want to comment on. You're going to have collaborations that you didn't anticipate. Marketing is a planned activity. That doesn't mean that you can't react to momentary opportunity. It's just that should stand on top of, and in addition to, that kind of heartbeat that you plan out.
And then you just do everything around.
Exactly. And so our recommendation is build that core on a marketing calendar, write it, schedule it. And oh, by the way, of course, ChatGPT and other tools can help you with the writing and designing of all these things. Get that all tucked away. Ideally have it for the next month. So have a schedule for 3 months, have the content for the next month, and then that actually frees your team up to be more reactive to opportunities.
Okay, well, we're going to take a quick commercial break here from one of our sponsors. When we get back, we're going to jump to our Plead the Fifth segment of the show.
Step into our state-of-the-art innovation lab and create your digital future. Oz uses cutting-edge technology and 22 years of industry knowledge to enhance customer experience through digital innovation in a variety of expertise. Oz is a leading global consulting company whose services and solutions are trusted by startup, midsize, and even Fortune 500 companies. Get to know more about Oz's Salus, a mobile solution bringing us back to max capacity, and their latest solution, Rainmaker, saving insurance companies years of work. To learn more about Oz and their exciting technologies, visit followoz.com. That's FOLLOWOZ.com.
All I know is it just.
What do you?
Everybody, welcome back to the Shrimp Tank. So make sure to follow Dan on LinkedIn, Instagram. He posts content all the time to help entrepreneurs really scale their business and get better AI hacks and tricks and be better marketers, of course. So Dan, this segment of the show, it is called Plead the Fifth. We're going to ask you a question. If you don't want to answer, just say, I plead the fifth. If you can only plead the fifth one time, plead the fifth 2 times. Roland loves lobster right down the road from a nice steakhouse, and you're going to have to take Roland to a lunch or a dinner. Okay, is that a deal, Dan? You plead the fifth twice?
Well, I need to know how many questions you're going to ask. So
we'll say 4 questions.
Okay.
So
I just
Say
need to know.
4, but it might be 10.
Right. Okay.
I
Okay.
usually go for softballs.
Here we go.
Roland goes for the hard balls. of
Not
course.
me.
Okay. Tell us an example of a customer took your class and then probably ripped you off. Said, this is a great idea. I'm going to go ahead and build my own business based on the same exact fundamentals, right? Coaches are products like yours are transferable, and people sometimes do the same thing. And this is a great business model. I'm
Yeah.
going to become a consultant. I'm going to build a model and do the same thing and bring in a better mousetrap, a funnel, right? And teach them in a different format, but take the same exact format. Has that happened? I could be wrong, but I'm just assuming it has because you train so many different individuals. And if so, tell us the story.
Yeah. So I was deathly afraid of this because, they talk about a moat. And a moat in business means some way to stop someone from basically copying your idea and doing it better, faster, cheaper. And especially when it comes to teaching, I give my students the PowerPoints. They can adjust some words and imagery, and the copyright doesn't count anymore, and they can go and teach the material and pay and go and recruit clients. And so anyway, I was definitely afraid of this, had everybody sign, like my students sign like NDAs or whatever, limiting their use. And then it never happened. And then I actually started to look around and I realized, there is no one else teaching marketing in at least the local community like I am, even though there is no moat, and you would think this would be the easiest thing in the world to do. And I then started running the business and I realized why. It's because it is a brutal business. I mean, I really am essentially running a hobby business as a business. And the only reason I'm still here is through complete pigheadedness. And I can tell you the pain of selling 1,000 courses to people with no time or money has been so extreme that I invite people to copy my stuff and try to do it.
It's also because it's live sessions, right? Everyone's done the pre-recorded stuff, but once you go to live, it's like, no, it takes those 80 employees, right? Or outside 1099 professors that are teaching these courses. And that's not easy to do, right? It takes a lot of hard work to hire. It takes a lot of hard work to train and then do the courses live frequently, of course, right?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that differentiates me from the competition is I'm not willing to give up. Like, we all can think of people who do exactly what I do, and are they still here after 7 years? No, they're not. And so I'm not worried at all about the competition. And then I'm starting to niche down, which is I found, my niche in business support organizations and a funding model that involves basically the subsidizing of courses. And there's no business support organization that's going to pick a mom and pop over me, because I have the 14th largest county in the country by GDP is my number one client. I testified in Congress in December. I have 4 national awards. I'm a Pulitzer Prize-winning like, they just can't compete. So I'm not worried about that at all. In fact, the other thing is I have an abundance mentality, which is we as a country have to train every single person in this country to be AI ready, whether they're working for someone else or working for themselves. And we're not competing with each other. We're competing against China, and they're doing a better job than we are. And so the bottom line is I want more BizHack Academies to be out there, because I can't do this alone. 1 million is not nearly enough. So
How do you deal with, I'll back up and do a different one. Hire slow and fire fast. Tell us about your biggest problem employee and how you fired that person. Tell us that story.
yeah, I probably have a lot more stories about how I messed up on this one, which is I fired too slow. And I think firing is a little bit strong. I've actually been fired, and it's so judging of what actually happened. Like, sometimes there's just not a fit, and it takes a minute for everybody to figure it out. And I've learned over the years that, like, one of the hardest things, so I got fired in my last journalism role. And it was a public firing. Like, it was published in the local newspaper, it was published in the industry press. I still to this day don't really know what I did, except for being a little bit of an a-hole. But it wasn't like anything obvious, like monetary or, God forbid, like malfeasance. It wasn't like that. It was just, I kind of wasn't, my boss didn't like me, but he didn't have the guts to tell me that normally through a performance review. So just one day I got escorted out of the building. And
So this is NPR?
Yeah, this was when I was the local news director at NPR.
Oh, okay. What about you firing someone?
Yeah, so having gone through that experience and having had, published reports about me being fired, I don't like the word. I think it's really rough on people. So I had, early on in my company, I hired what's called an integrator. And an integrator is like a head of operations. So I was kind of the visionary CEO, out being a thought leader, drumming up business. And then this person was designed to run the business. And she was so amazing. But the smallest company she'd worked for was a $250 million a year company. And my big rule of thumb that I've come to learn is you should never hire someone whose primary experience is working for a company more than 10x larger than where you are now. So for instance, if you're a $100,000 a year company, don't hire anyone who's worked for companies more than $1 million, or who have experience working for companies at $1 million, but no more. If you're a $1 million a year company, 10 million is the cap. This was like 25x. And so her skill set was not a good fit for what we needed, but it took us 1.5 years to figure it out. And it was just a lot of frustration and wasted time. And I'll just give you an example. Like, the strategies she built were befitting of a Fortune 500 company, and I was a little $500,000 a year startup.
So these are just sort of the parting of the ways, not really.
Yeah, I haven't had like a classic sort of firing situation. I'm pretty careful in the front end. We do a lot of assessments, and I hire for value.
You learn from that, right?
Oh, well, what I learned is that what I really needed was an executive assistant, not a head of operations. And so I went, and the best hire I've ever made has been an executive assistant. And so I learned, like, this is the part that's really hard. Like, when you have a gap in the company, sometimes it's not obvious what the right hire is to fix the gap. So for me, well, the other big mistake I made, just, this isn't a firing, but I've gone through so many marketing directors. And I've also tried to hire several salespeople. I'm the best marketer and salesperson in the company. What I really should have been doing is getting the other stuff off my plate so I could spend more time on marketing and sales, not less. And that was a big mistake. So figuring that all out took me 7 years. sadly. And so I made a lot of like human misery along the way, mine and theirs, as I was hiring the wrong people. I had diagnosed the problem, but I hadn't diagnosed the correct solution.
Your favorite sports team is the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yes, and I'm in dolphin country right now.
So what would it still be your favorite team if Mark Zuckerberg decided to buy it and put Meta at the top of the stadium? Or if you don't want to answer, just say I plead the fifth.
I think a lot about this, right? You take a uniform, right? And you put it on another person, and now that person is like your favorite player, and they used to be your biggest enemy. I think I am partisan to the Philadelphia Eagles green. And I think even if, God forbid, Mark Zuckerberg owned it, I would still bleed green and white.
Why?
Because I don't actually think the people matter.
No, why the Philadelphia Eagles?
Oh, yeah, I'm from Philly.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up
Anyone
in.
from Philly loves it.
Okay, well, I've been beaten up, almost got beat up at their veteran stadium.
No. I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles fans famously booed
Santa Claus.
Santa.
Oh,
So
yeah.
no, we are complete a-holes. But
Threw
they're my
snowballs at the referees. Yeah, right.
yeah, they're my a-holes.
Were you throwing snowballs at the referees?
I mean, I screamed louder than anyone else. I recently went to Lincoln Field and was in the upper decks. And we were playing the Giants, who are like one of our arch rivals. And there was one Giant, and he was so brave. He was wearing his uniform, and then a sea of green, and the vitriol and just obnoxiousness that we did to this poor gentleman. And I participated. We really don't like the Giants, and we're generally just giant jerks. But they're my jerks. And no matter, I've lived in South Florida for 25 years, and I'm still an Eagles fan.
Well, hail to the Redskins, dude. So let's move on. Okay, now, what about your advice for a professor teaching students who are basically going to use ChatGPT and other AI sources to generate term papers to cheat, basically, by not doing their own work?
Right.
What kind of advice or do you have, or any thoughts on that?
So this is one of the most vexing questions, right? Because as a guy who has a master's degree in writing, the problem, and as someone who believes that good writing is really a reflection of good thinking, if you're outsourcing the writing, you're outsourcing the thinking. And then I'm not sure if you, as a student, actually understand the material and can do the critical thinking that's required. That's the one side. And then the other side is this is the most powerful tool for education, productivity, content creation in the history of mankind. And so I think as an educator, we have a responsibility to teach them how to use ChatGPT well. So what I would do is just a lot more in class writing, where they're physically writing stuff. And then I would also have very clear guidelines on what's permissible with ChatGPT. And then basically, take the hammer down on anyone who violates this.
It's a good answer. The funny thing is about this, you can tell when it's generated, when it's AI generated, you can tell, you can just read it and you can see this person didn't write this.
And if that violates so I went to Princeton University, and they had a weird thing, which is we had what's called an honor code. I pledge my honor that I've not violated the honor code in the writing of this exam, and you sign it. And they were all unproctored exams. And then we had a system where if you did not rat out someone who you knew was cheating, you were cheating, and you would get kicked out of school. And there was an honor committee. And that's kind of the approach I would take, is I would say, look, here is the deal. You can use ChatGPT, but in this way. And if you're caught, I'm going to fail you, and I'm going to do everything in my power to get you out of this school, because you do not deserve to be here.
I think the main thing with this is disclosure.
Exactly.
What you're doing and what prompts you're using and that sort of thing.
You just have to follow, you have to have guidelines, and I recommend the guidelines include the responsible use of ChatGPT. But the other thing I just wanted to quickly mention is many of us have heard of Khan Academy. Fewer of us have heard of Khanmigo. So one of the first companies in the world to get access to early models of ChatGPT from OpenAI was Khan Academy, and they created a teaching assistant. So the scary part is how are we going to teach students how to write and to think critically? The exciting part is you can get these AI powered teaching assistants that will bring a level of personalized coaching and tutoring that is just not possible and affordable in the current model. So
showing their videos in class.
It's an amazing.
Interesting.
Not enough people know about it. If you're an educator, go figure out how to get Kamigo into your classroom.
Well, tell us about the state of journalism today, because you may
Oh,
not
God.
know this, but I used to be a newspaper reporter. I was
Oh,
a
God.
city editor of a newspaper, and I call myself a recovering journalist.
Yeah.
What is your opinion about journalism? Or
I'm in-
plead the fifth.
No. I mean, I want to plead the fifth because I might as well, but I'm in despair about the state of journalism. I mean, despair. I spent basically 20 years of my life as a local journalist working for the local NPR station and for the Miami Herald. And the Miami Herald is a shell of the great institution that I was so proud to be a part of, to the point where I can't even read it anymore. It's that painful. And NPR's listenership is down, well deserved. They don't deserve to have more listeners. The Washington Post is having a leadership debacle run by arguably the best owner in all of journalism. I mean, Jeff Bezos, he's put so much money and given them so much technological help, and they're in a tailspin. The New York Times was bailed out by a Mexican billionaire, Carlos Slim, and they had to sell their own building in order to be able to survive. They're considered the paragon of journalism. They're a very poor business. Excuse my language. So the real risk of what they call news brownouts, which is like communities even as large as Miami not having a credible news source, let alone rural areas and so forth, is so real. And there is no business model that works. All of the new digital startups, Vox, BuzzFeed, they're all collapsing. And here's the worst part. Generative AI is the absolute worst thing that happened to journalism. Why? They now have this thing called AI snap overviews, and it's generative search results that come at the top of Google search. So there's some reporter that somebody who's not Google spent a lot of money hiring to gather information that Google is then creating a generative information about and not paying that reporter's salary to gather that information. Inevitably, what will happen is people won't go to the website to get the information because the generative result gives it to us. That over time, that news outlet will go out of business, and then the quality of the information that's being subsidized by journalism organizations will the information won't be there, because reporting at its fundamental is a human to human activity. It's done mostly through in person, and so I despair, honestly, for where this industry is headed. And by the way, Google doesn't care about this. Like, they care about beating Microsoft in the generative AI game.
Well, Roland, you didn't get him to plead the fifth.
Well, I thought he sort of did, but okay. Why were you fired by NPR?
No lunch. No
Plead the
lobster
fifth.
lunch.
Plead the fifth.
Oh, you
There you
got
go.
him.
There you
You
go.
had to plead the fifth twice to get lunch. So
You should get a badge of honor
he
being
made
fired by
it through.
NPR.
He made it through. Well, Dan, thanks for joining us here on the Shrimp Tank today. For our audience listening, what are the best routes to get in touch with you?
So I'm Dan Grech, DAN, and then my last name is GRECH. And you can find me on Instagram and LinkedIn. And then everything that we're doing that's AI marketing related is at BizHack Academy, BIZHACK Academy, on social media, and bizhack.com online.
Well, thanks again for joining us here on the Shrimp Tank. Everyone listening, we'll be back next week at 1:00. Take care.
All right.
Shark in a shrimp tank, big fish, small pond in the shrimp tank. When it's